Joining us now to talk more about the war in Ukraine, retired U.S. Army Major General William Enyart. General Enyart, always good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Natasha. Good to be with you.
It is tempting to think it is a good thing if Moscow is indicating that it's open to talks. Is Ukraine right to be so tentative?
Well, I think all you need to do is listen to what the Russians are saying, and you'll understand that they're not serious about the talks. The Russian foreign minister just yesterday said that Ukrainians must surrender in order for there to be peace. And Putin, when he talks, excuse me, when he talks about peace, is only talking about peace with victory by Russia. I don't think there's a likely chance of serious peace negotiations without a dramatic reversal or a dramatic continuation of Russian reversals. So I think all of this talk is more likely a response to Putin's claims that he's willing to negotiate and the Ukrainians aren't. It's really an ongoing battle for world public opinion, which Ukraine is by and large winning.
It's not really much of a negotiation if one side insists on getting their way entirely. Ukrainian President Zelensky's advisor says the Kremlin is trying to buy time by mentioning negotiations. Do you agree with their assessment there?
Well, I think that's correct. Putin is never going to willingly accede to Ukrainian demands for war crimes tribunals, nor is he going to voluntarily give Crimea back, nor the four provinces in eastern Ukraine that he illegitimately annexed. So, in order to get a war crimes tribunal, Ukraine has to win the war. But in spite of Ukraine's successes against a much larger force, it's still a long way from defeating Putin's army. Frankly, the conditions that each side is setting forth for peace negotiations are merely opening gambits.
And meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is giving Ukraine an ultimatum, saying that they have to back off the 4 occupied regions of Ukraine or the Russian military will take action. What do you make of those threats?
Well, frankly, I think at this point they're pretty empty threats. The Russians have been tossed back time and again. It seems to be a bit of a stalemate at this point. Russia's pulled forces back from the south and tried to reinforce up north, and they've mobilized 300,000 either non-trained or very ill-trained reservists and draftees, all in an attempt to hang on to those 4 provinces up north. I think as long as the West, as long as NATO and the U.S. continue to supply Ukraine with arms, they're going to continue to be able to compete very effectively with the Russians.
If we can talk about energy quickly, the Ukrainian president saying about 9 million people do not have power. There are worries that Russia will launch more infrastructure attacks on New Year's Eve. Is there anything more that the U.S. and allies should be doing to help Ukraine?
Well, I think in terms of anti-air defenses, that would be a prime request by the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have been very effective at knocking down the drones and the cruise missiles, but with the waves of drones and cruise missiles that the Russians have launched, it's been difficult for them to get them all, in fact, impossible. I think that the Ukrainians, by their attacks on Russian air bases deep inside Russia, have evened the odds up a bit. That's forced the Russians to pull their bombers back. And the Russian Air Force really doesn't operate in Ukrainian airspace at all anymore. Those bombers have been launching those cruise missiles from inside Russia. And the further back the Ukrainians can push those bombers, the less effective those cruise missiles will be.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.